I was going to make this video and just talk about something very truthful. Halloween, right? I just want to talk about how, my opinion, and I'll use scripture to back it up, how as Christians, followers of Christ, we shouldn't be celebrating Halloween. The reason I say that, because if you know, you know, Halloween is the most demonic holiday in the world. You know, most people, you know, maybe not all, but most people that, you know, celebrate Halloween go outside on that night dressed up as witches, zombies, demons, devils. You know, there's heavy amounts of witchcraft that goes on Halloween. You know, on Halloween, you know, there are people out there that are doing rituals, trying to summon demons. There are people out there that play the Ouija board. I mean, there's a lot of demonic activity that goes on Halloween, you know. And it tells us, you know, in Ephesians 5:11, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove it. It tells us, and do not have, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but reprove it. But aren't you doing the opposite of that? When you're going out there, regardless of what you're dressed up as, you know, it could be Buzz Lightyear, a Power Ranger, Woody, you know, whatever, Scooby-Doo, Shaggy, you know, whatever. But you're still participating, taking part in a holiday, as we know, that's very, very, very heavily demonic. That has nothing to do with God. There's a lot of witchcraft, demonic stuff that goes on Halloween. You know, doesn't it tell us as well in 1 Corinthians 6:20? For ye were bought with a price, therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's, which belongs to God. How are you glorifying your body or your spirit, which belongs to God, if you're going out there, regardless of what you're dressed up as, and taking part in a holiday that's a very, 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 very demonic, a heavily demonic holiday, where there's a lot of witchcraft that goes on, people doing, you know, seances, rituals, playing the Ouija board, trying to summon demons. There's just a lot of witchcraft that goes on that holiday. How are you glorifying your body or your spirit if you're taking part in it? Dressing up, going outside and taking part in it. You're not. Doesn't the Bible also tell us in Ephesians 4:27, neither give place to the devil, give no place to the devil? But aren't you doing the complete opposite of that? If you're going out there, regardless of what you're dressed up as, and you're taking part in a holiday that's heavily, heavily, heavily demonic. Again, where there's a lot of witchcraft that goes on that holiday. People doing rituals, seances, trying to summon demons, people playing the Ouija board, just a lot of demonic activity that goes on that holiday. Aren't you giving place to the devil? But the Bible tells us in Ephesians 4:27, neither give place to the devil. But you're doing the complete opposite when you're going outside, taking part in it, that holiday, participating in a very, very demonic holiday. You're doing the opposite. You're giving place to the devil. When it tells us neither give place to the devil, you're giving place to the devil. Doesn't the Bible tell us as well in many different scriptures? Let's start with 1 Peter 1:15. Just as he who called you is holy, be holy in all you do. 1 Peter 1:16, you must be holy because I am holy. Doesn't it tell us as well? Jesus tells us this in Matthew 5:20. For this I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you cannot enter into the kingdom of heaven. Doesn't it also tell us in 2 Corinthians 6:17, come ye out from among them and be separate. Doesn't it tell us, and this is the NLT translation, but in 2 Corinthians 7:1, for these promises, dear friend, let us cleanse ourselves of everything that can defile our body or spirit, and let's work toward perfect holiness because we fear God. Doesn't it tell us as well in Romans 12:2, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind? But aren't you doing the complete opposite of that? Number one, how are you being holy, more holy, when you're taking part in a holiday that's known to be very, 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 very demonic? A lot of demonic activity goes on that holiday. How are you being holy? You're not. How are you renewing your mind daily when you're taking part in a holiday like that? You're conforming to the world. You're being just like the world, taking part in a very, 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 very demonic holiday that's known to have a lot of demonic activity that goes on that holiday. Doesn't it also tell us in Hebrews 12:14? And Hebrews 12:14, doesn't it tell us, make every effort to live in peace with everyone and be holy? Doesn't it tell us again in Hebrews 12:14, make every effort to live in peace with everyone and be holy? Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. Again, what's holy about Halloween? There ain't nothing holy about Halloween. There ain't nothing holy about it. Doesn't Jesus even tell us in John 15:19, if ye were of the world would love his own. But because ye are not of the world, but I have chosen ye out of the world, therefore the world hateth you. But aren't you being just like the world if you're going out there taking part in a holiday that's known to be heavily, heavily, heavily demonic? A lot of witchcraft goes on that holiday. A lot of demonic activity goes on that holiday. And you're taking part in it. Aren't you being just like the world? I mean, and again, it tells us again in the Bible, in Ephesians 5:11, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. And then it tells us even in Ephesians 4:27 again, neither give place to the devil. And doesn't it even tell us in James, this is the English translation, NLT translation, James 4:7, so humble yourselves before God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. So how are you humbling yourself before God and resisting the devil if you're going out there, regardless of what you're dressed up as, you're going out there and taking part in a holiday that's known to be heavily, heavily demonic? A holiday where there's a lot of demonic activity that goes on. You know, people out there doing, all sorts of witchcraft. People out there playing with the Ouija board. People out there doing rituals, seances, trying to summon demons. We have people out there on Halloween dressing up as demons, zombies, witches, devils. How are you resisting the devil and humbling yourself before God when you're taking part in a holiday that's known to be heavily, heavily, heavily demonic? And there's a lot of demonic activity that goes on that holiday.